it. Lock the dog up.
Well, hello, everyone. We are live. I'm super excited to be here today with Maria Littlefield and Jenny Rips to talk about Owls Brew. But quick introduction to us. I am Allie Wyatt. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Female Founder Collective, and we are a platform to empower and educate and connect women. We recently, well, now not as recently, launched our private membership community, the 10th House. The 10th House is an incredible platform to give very specific access to other founders from all around the globe who are in maybe a similar industry, a similar geography. Maybe you're looking to connect with other founders that are venture-backed or about to be. We also have an incredible bevy of resources. We have 3 different types of programming that happens every single week, from workshops to help you build your skills that are done by vetted experts to AMAs with incredible VCs, in addition to marketing and retail leaders. And we have over 15 different companies within our platform that offer discounts that by far and away help you achieve ROI. So that's a quick intro to us, but I'm excited to get over to Maria and Jenny, who have a really interesting story. I'm going to give everyone your bio, but Jenny Rips is a tea sommelier, and I'm interested to learn what that means. Co-founder and CEO of Owls Brew. She is a graduate of Goldman Sachs' 10,000 Small Businesses and has been selected as 35 under 35 food entrepreneurs by the Specialty Food Association. She is the co-author of Wise Cocktails, which I guess you all wrote together, and Guide to Crafting Tea-Based Cocktails. Jenny is a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania and resides in New York City. And Maria is the co-founder and COO of Owls Brew. She has been chosen by Forbes as 30 under 30 among food and beverage entrepreneurs, and has been selected as 35 under 35 entrepreneurs by the Specialty Food Association. She is the co-author of Wise Cocktails. I'm excited to hear how that process was. There's a lot of
I guess we could have joined that talking point.
About how challenging it is to write a book. And she is a graduate of Skidmore College and resides in New York City as well. They've been both profiled on the Today Show, in Forbes, in New York Times, among others. So you have very illustrious careers, and super excited to have you here. But first, I want to know how you guys got together to build this and what the story is on how sort of Owls Brew was birthed.
Of course, definitely. Yeah. I now realize I have to look at my LinkedIn. I'm a Connecticut resident now.
Jenny is a new Connecticut resident.
Newish.
Newish, yeah, I guess.
And our company's in Connecticut now too, or Connecticut/New York with Maria in New York. But let's talk about, I guess, Maria, I feel like this is always a good story that you tell.
Yeah. Do you want me to tell?
Yeah. You're good.
Well, so we literally got together originally, and then I'll let Jenny talk about how she kind of got into tea and everything that transpired from there. But we literally met the first day that I moved to New York.
The first day, wow.
Yeah, the first day I moved to New York, I came in for an interview. We were
first. She just graduated from college.
Yes.
You're
yeah.
Long
so
time.
Like the fall. Yeah, fall. That fall.
We're much older than that now.
Yeah, for better or for worse. But I just moved to the city, and Jenny was working at a marketing agency, like a boutique agency, and I came in for an interview as an intern. And this is just for some like kind of funny color. It was the first time Jenny had ever hired anyone, also, and so we had this like great conversation, and then she like abruptly got up and left the room. And I was like, okay, I'll just wait. But so she closed the door, but it was like a glass sliding door, and I could just like see her pacing back and forth. I was like, what's happening? And because she was like having an internal conversation of whether or not she should just like hire me or if she should interview more people.
Conversation, I was like, I don't understand. This is the first time. She was my first interview, and it was the first time I had hired anyone. And I was like, is it just me that like we connected immediately? But like,
is this you talking to yourself?
Yes, she's like pacing back and
in a
forth.
conversation with myself about like whether I just like would fall for anyone who walked through the door, or if Maria was as special as I thought. And anyway, I offered her the job that day. I didn't interview anyone else, and we had been business partners for like over, I don't know, 10 years, 12 years.
Yeah, business partners for 10 years and working together for longer than that. Yeah.
Business partners for 10 years, working together for longer.
Obviously no longer at the marketing firm, but.
We don't work there. But
and Jenny, what role were you in when you brought on Maria?
So I was, at the time I was putting together kind of like events. I was doing a lot of production, a lot of sponsorships, and it was, I mean, it's not much to do with what we do now, except for we joked when we first launched Owls Brew. We kind of said, well, you know, all that work, like getting people into place, getting production elements into place isn't too different from, you know, like putting a can together. You get the liquid in, you get the
like a whole lot of stuff that all has to come together.
A whole lot of stuff that needs to come together at one time. So, and they're physical things, so that it kind of actually really helped with that, especially in the early days of Owls Brew when we were just figuring out how to make something.
And how did you decide that Owls Brew was the product that you wanted to make? And was that at the beginning of your journey as a company, or did it come later?
No, it's actually it's been organic. We've worked together a long time, and how we started out, Maria, or you mentioned that I'm a tea sommelier. Around the time that Maria and I started working together, I just like absolutely fell in love with tea. I was, a family member was sick, and I was literally just looking for something antioxidant rich, immunity boosting. And I found tea, and I like was younger, that I was like in my 20s, and I was like, wait, you can drop a leaf into water, like that's it, and you get health benefits, you change flavor. And it kind of changed my life, and then our lives, this kind of response to tea. So we first launched a tea company together called Brew Lab Tea, and we made in New York City, like I created all of the iced tea for like Sweetgreen, for Momofuku, the Edition Hotel, Quality Eats, many restaurants. And actually, the way Maria and I decided to found Owls Brew was we had our tea company, and we were working on a lot of tea cocktail programs. And the more I made tea cocktails, like I worked with Scarpetta on tea cocktails, and the more we made tea cocktails, the more Maria and I were drinking tea cocktails. and we were like, you know what? This makes so much sense to drink something that's made from like a clean base, that doesn't have sugar, that doesn't have junk in it. Yeah. And honestly, we just started looking to buy things like what we were making for restaurants, and we couldn't find it anywhere. And that's why we decided to launch Owls Brew.
I love that. And it's been a long journey. So often you think like overnight success, but you all have been working together for technically over 10 years.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a quote that someone told me, and I've like never forgotten. It's like, every overnight success is 10 years in the making.
Yes.
I was like, I get that.
100%. I mean, we started out with this. And sorry, go on, Maria. I don't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, I would just say we've had this insight for a long time about this idea that you can drink better, and like when you're drinking, you don't have to drink all the crap, if you will, that's all these products are made with, and like chemicals, and like what's a natural flavor made with natural flavors? Okay, it's just made in a lab with chemicals. Like that's all that means. And so
same idea, but it evolved so much, to your point, Allie. Like we were like, okay, tea, and then we were working with tea, and then we kept having, I mean, it took a long time to get to Owls Brew Boozy Tea, but we had different products along the way. We exited a company along the way. I mean, we continued to work together and kind of build towards this product and this kind of vision and mission.
And I feel like that. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, and I think the consumer has evolved a lot. You know, at first when we were kind of talking about drinking better, people, or like boozy teas, people were like kind of looking at us with their eyes crossed, and now it's people are turning over packages and looking at what's in their products, and when they're drinking, they're paying attention to ingredients and then what they're putting on their skin, and there's just like the conscious consumer has evolved so much. And so
we've evolved, but so has the consumer.
We've evolved, exactly. So I feel like we're at this exciting point where we're kind of both meeting at the right time.
And talk to me about the process of, you said you had a production background, you were tea sommelier. a lot of entrepreneurs come from, they're heavily focused on a great product that they ultimately brought to market. They found product market fit. People loved it. They started selling it, and then they have to create this business around it. What have been some of the biggest surprises along the way for you all as you've started to actually build a business around it, from maybe what you thought it might be to what it actually is?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think I'll start and then Maria just interrupt
Yep,
me
great
here.
question.
It's a really great question.
Loaded question.
You know, I know you mentioned in the bio that I graduated from Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses, and I think that's just that was a very practical reaction to us having a business. I was an English major. Like I was an English
I was
major
going to ask about that with
that
writing
fell in
the
love
book.
with tea. Yeah, we have a book club. So I was an English major that fell in love with tea. And once we started a tea business, like I was saying things like we had lawyers and accountants. I was like, well, like we have like the money is going in here, but we need to wait 30 days to be paid. I was talking about cash flow. And like, I literally didn't know what I was saying. I didn't have the language. And so I actually had participated first in this Tory Burch Foundation thing very, very early on. And they connected me with Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses. And I learned this language where I was able to communicate and build a business. And then I would also say from there, and I think, Maria, this is something you've always said, that putting an advisor and mentor network into place has also been kind of critical.
Yeah, so critical. I mean, the everything from there's just such a huge learning curve, and alcohol in and of itself has like so many layers that are just really complex. And so I think one of the best things that we've done is really build an advisor and a mentor. And we ask a lot of questions, and anytime something doesn't make sense, we try to get to the bottom of it, because we've also found that when something isn't adding up, it's usually not right. And so just over and over, we've had that kind of same experience, is like really just trying to pull together all the pieces and understand where you're going and why. But
Have there been any like big surprise moments that you have encountered where you're like, wow, I never would have anticipated this in building a business?
I think that one
really,
piece is the building the right team versus the right business are two very different things. And Maria and I, as we had our vision for our product, like you mentioned, but then it took us a while to really understand how to be leaders within our team and be good bosses, good managers. Like I think that took a while. That's really, really hard to do, to sort of, if you've never kind of been a manager before. And I'm really proud of the team that we have now. It's other people we
yeah,
work with.
no, I 100% agree. And I think that's one of the things that isn't talked about enough. It's like when you have an idea for an actual product, it's one completely separate, really difficult thing to actually bring that product to life, get it in distribution, find like funding for it, make it. I mean, the challenges we came up with making the product itself
Oh my
are
God.
also really difficult, right? Because
So
we're not
difficult.
doing,
Yeah.
the whole
That's
point
true.
was we're not doing something that exists. And like, that means that like none of the production is set up to do what we're doing.
Yeah.
So
I think that's another surprising thing. Do you want to speak about
yeah,
that?
yeah. So yeah, I can go into that more. So I mean, just even not to get too detailed, but I mean, we're fresh brewing tea. We're using whole real ingredients. The whole premise of boozy tea is that it's a clean boozy beverage, and we don't use any like no artificial flavors, no natural flavors, which I told you are not natural. No sugar substitutes, none of that stuff. And so actually finding partners that will work with us on that process was extremely challenging. And was,
we
but,
caught 20
I was going to say
brews,
20,
like
30.
20,
Yeah. And everyone,
19 out
the
of
system
20.
is set up to use flavors because it's cheaper and easily scalable. And that's not what we were willing to do. And so over and over production is really
And I was
challenging, and
surprised.
getting all the,
When we went, like, okay,
yeah,
I made a tea. I'm a tea sommelier.
we were making it like in buckets, and we
And
were
somebody
like,
was
this is
like,
what we're going to do.
"This is
Yeah.
what we're gonna make." And then they're like,
Sounds
"Oh,
kind of
okay."
similar to Dinah Trout's
Yeah,
Palisade
Yes.
story.
very similar. So they were like, "Oh, well, like we'll recreate that. Here's your tea flavor." And I was like, "Well, I don't understand. Why would we use a tea? Like, this is tea. Like, why would we replace tea with a tea flavor when we can make the
Right.
flavor with tea?" And that took Maria and me, like,
Yeah.
we were like, it was like a head scratcher.
And then we were like, what's a flavor? Why it's not tea? I
So
don't,
confused.
what's a flavor house? And yeah, so over and over, I mean, just production in general is really challenging. There's constant challenges as you're growing and scaling and evolving the brand. So that was definitely a surprising challenge. But just to kind of wrap up what I was saying before, I feel like no one talks about, so you have all these things, you put a product into market, and then it's also, you need to build a team to scale with your product. And that is a whole different skill set that, as Jenny said, is we've grown a lot. I think that's probably like both of our biggest growth areas, if you will. That I think we're both really proud of, but it's really a huge
Can
learning.
you talk a little bit about that? As that was actually one of my questions, is in building the team. So many founders that we go through this process with, and as they're evolving, one of their main questions is like, when do I bring on a team? Who are the first people that I hire? How should I think about it? Can you give us a sense of your process and some of the things that you've learned in building a team along the way, and how you thought about paying yourselves maybe versus not, in relation to your team?
So we both recently read a book, and that just like, and this is completely true outside of the book, but we read a book called From Good to Great by Jim Collins.
Yeah.
And
I love that
he
one.
talks, it's a great book, and he talks a lot about having the right people on the bus. So I feel like there are two parts here, right? Because like when you're a really big company, you can like put the right people, and by right people on the bus means just you want to have excellent people, and you can figure out what they do later. So there's two pressures, right? As a founder, because you have very little money, you're starting a company. So that sounds silly in some ways, that the right people on the bus, I can barely afford to have like the wrong person on the bus. The right person on the bus. And the flip side of that, though, is of course, so I feel like on the one hand, Maria and I have learned over and over again is that skills are teachable, but kind of certain characteristics aren't. And so more and more we look for, team members who are entrepreneurial, who are hustlers, who are good humored, who like character is so important, because a lot of things you can teach. But the flip side of that, I would say, is more and more we've also realized that you can't throw a person at a problem. So in the past, we've made mistakes where we've hired against problems instead of trying to solve them ourselves. And a lot of the time you need less people and a better process before you put someone in. And so it's kind of a balance of the right people on the bus, but also putting people into systems that are fair to them.
Yes.
I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. And really also
Making sure they're set up for success, in other words.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And like
and
understanding
a million things are thrown at you. So you really need a strong foundation, because no day is the same. And sometimes someone goes from being in marketing to sales to operations as needed. And so you just need the right people, the right attitude, but also like some kind of stability that goes beyond.
So yeah, they have to be grounded. You need to be grounded in something. But I really think it's also about like understanding, the right people on the bus and like what their strengths are, and playing and making sure that whatever they're doing is playing to that strength. And that's where we've really seen our team members excel. Is when they're both passionate about what they're doing, but they're also really good at it.
Yeah.
And the right time to hire someone, I think, is if if you find, at least at first, like in the first two or three, or like if there are one or two or three people and you're looking for that first or second or third hire, I think it's if it's clearly identifiable that there's something that is kind of rinse and repeat that could be done, and where you could be building the business, and that would just help you. I think that's a good first hire, in my opinion, is to.
Yeah.
And I think
it's really hard. I mean, that question is really hard. I don't know.
The different needs. Like,
I don't know if there's like a specific roadmap either. And like, I don't think you always get it right. That piece is really hard. Like what, like, especially with like senior,
it's so case specific.
It's so case specific. And it's like, I mean, it's really when you like feel like a huge like need, like you're like drowning in something that someone else really needs to take over and run. Like that's a senior hire, right? Then there's like some more like operation. We have a jack of all trades role that we've always had. That's been like an incredible support for the company.
That's kind of what I was talking about.
Yeah. That was like actually our first hire was someone that we called a Jill of all trades, I think. And like literally just like helped us with everything across the board.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think
There's
that
no
is
luck.
one of the most challenging things in building your team, is those key moments. And like I said, like, I don't think you always get it right, but you have to kind of try,
Figure it out
try your
along
best.
the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you all just raised $9 million, which is no small feat, particularly in an industry that is very much dominated by men. Can you talk about maybe what was the most challenging part of that process and ultimately why you think you were successful?
Yes. So I think that, I mean, honestly, raising over Zoom was really unique. I did most of the capital raise, and it was all Zoom. But I think also, like, one thing we learned, because again, we've been in business together a long time, is really measuring twice and cutting once. So I think we must have redone our deck 60 times before we went to like market. And even when
Mm,
we were in market with it, if someone said something, we were shifting it. And similarly, we must have begun speaking to some of our best advisors and mentors, as Maria said, 6 months before the raise. Like, we had early consultants on the deck. So really, even though the raise itself took only 2 or 3 months, it was a quick raise. And in some ways it was a
wow.
good raise. You know, there was so much pre-work done,
Mhm.
and it was just an incredible, it was less that it was difficult. It was just, it took like
A lot of
so
time.
much focus and
Yeah.
attention, and it was a big, big grind, and we did so much work up front. We didn't just go to market with it, and it worked out well for us. But it
Mhm.
took a ton of time and energy.
But that's, yeah, a ton of work. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like a full-time job. Yeah.
Raise, yes,
Yeah.
it certainly is. And then you're having to run a company
Yeah,
on top of
exactly.
that, which is more than a full-time job.
Yeah.
Um, how you took 2 to 3 months on average, I think raises take 3 to 4 months. So you're definitely on the quicker side.
Two
You
to
said
three
you
plus
put a
like six.
Yeah. Plus a lot of
right. Well, I was
conversation.
gonna ask
Yeah.
what was some of that pre-work? You said you were finding the deck a lot. A lot of times you hear from investors or founders that have raised a lot of capital that you're going to want to go out to a lot of different people because you're going to hear a lot of no's, but that you should go out to the ones in the beginning that are sort of your least the ones that you want the least because you want to make your mistakes then. Did you sort of take that approach, or what was the pre-work that you laid out that enabled you to achieve a pretty high rate of success fairly quickly?
So a lot of the pre-work, I mean, the leads in our round, I have very good relationships with, and I really tried to make sure in advance I was speaking to everyone, honestly, almost everyone who ended up in the round, 3 or 4 or 5 months in advance, and not pitching them, just trying to make sure they understood the business, they understood the
Yeah.
goals. And so I think a lot of it, um, is what's the expression? You bet on the ride or not the horse. I mean, I think a lot of it is them understanding that you're going to be responsible with their capital, and that you are like in it, and that if something goes wrong, you're not going to just give up after they've put a lot of capital in. And at our stage, right? Because we're early stage, 9 million is a significant raise, but we're not a big enough company yet that like everything is a hustle still. So it's not
Yeah.
just it's going, right? It's being driven right now by founders because it's early stage. So I think a lot of it was just making sure that people trusted us and the team. And then while I was sort of trying to help people understand a little bit more about who we were in terms of like our character and commitment, it was also working with advisors on like constant revisions of the deck, making sure the story we told was the story we wanted to tell. And a lot of it was, I think the first maybe 20 versions of the deck was really from like our perspective. And then one of our advisors said, you're not looking at this from an investor's perspective. And that completely shifted. So it was tons of iterations, but and a lot of
And a lot of
360-degree work almost.
Yeah, and I would say even on top of that, it was also a lot of like brand work, and just like making sure that like your
Mhm.
vision, mission, and position, and like what your goals are as a brand are really clear, in all those conversations, because they kind of have to go together, right? Like you're sort of end up with partners that are also see your vision, for the brand, and you have to make sure that both of your vision for what they want to invest in and what they're looking at is aligned with what you guys are doing. And that's kind of where you end up with like a marriage of partners. So we also had a lot of that work along the way as well.
I love that.
And then also the data room, right?
And we don't I'm sorry about anyone who has to make a data room.
PTSD, but
nope, nobody likes a data room.
The data room is in and of itself another work in progress.
But then when it's complete, you're like, wow.
It's really satisfying.
It's very satisfying. Look at what I did.
Organized folders. Yeah.
That is all the work.
Yeah. It's a lot. So
months and months and months, years of work is just sitting in there.
Tons of compliance, like a lot of work. Yeah.
And then, you guys are in an industry where only 4% of brewmasters, sales teams, and executive positions in the industry are made up of women. How has that informed your overall experience as a company and maybe how you operate as a business and position the brand?
Sure. Maria, do you want
to? Yeah, no, that's a really good question. I think a few things, like in terms of our position, I think we've just have a female perspective on what we're making and why. And I think we've built
responsibility, right? Responsibility. Oh, nothing going on. I didn't mean to interrupt.
I'm sorry. Oh no, it's okay.
Right. Okay.
You could say responsibility. My earbud.
Female perspective. Sorry.
Yeah, female perspective, responsibility. I think that shaped a lot of how we've looked at everything from how we've built our brand to the team that we've built. And I think with just like a different perspective, and something actually that we launched earlier this year is the Wise Women Collective, which is really our community-based platform to both connect and support other women that have supported us along the way. We've built this incredible community and we feel so supportive and so lucky, especially since we are definitely a minority in this industry. And so we support everything from like, if you're hosting a local event, you can submit it on our website and we'll support your, mom's night out or something like that. To we just did a program with like Keep Abreast, which is a breast cancer awareness charity for October. We have a Boozy Book Club where we spotlight women authors. So it's really just a platform where we host community-based fun, like things that are designed to be fun and informative, but also just build a network and community for our followers and for anyone who wants.
And then
did you have more to add to that?
Oh, no, that's exactly right.
Awesome. I love the Wise Woman Collective as a community person. It's so important. And then you all have insane distribution. Like you're in just about every place that is the holy grail for food and beverage companies. Can you talk a little bit about the process of getting into a Whole Foods and building that out and some of the things that you learned along the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think what's been great with our retail partners is that's where kind of that vision, mission. I feel like at our stage, our investors are our partners, our retailers are our partners, our distributors are our partners. And so we kind of have a very partner collaboration driven approach. So when Maria was saying really nailing that vision, mission, and position and making sure we're presenting it to investors, it's pretty much the same thing, but almost in some ways more so with some of our retailers. So what we found is we are a clean, boozy beverage with fresh brewed tea as a base. And what we found in terms of like pitching is it's whenever sometimes, we've sometimes had to really hustle to get to our people to understand who we needed to speak to present. But most of the time, like, I think it's the right time for a product like ours. And we really approach pitching them collaboratively. We're not like flashing stuff at them or like trying, we're just saying, we think that this,
and we're really sort of building this category together.
We're building the category together. And so for us, I think the hustle sometimes is making sure that we're getting to someone to sort of try to show them what we're doing and why it matters. But I think our retailers, like whether it's Whole Foods or Trader Joe's or Sprouts or HEB, are all like super interested in this category, interested in the idea of clean, in a better boozy beverage. And some of them are actually interested in, supporting female founders. And so there's a lot of shared vision in terms of us and our retailers. And I think it's been pretty extraordinary as an experience. Like yeah.
Love that.
But it is true what they say, that the hard work starts after you get in the door.
Right. Keeping on the shelves.
Yeah.
We're almost at time. So I wanted to ask each of you for a quick, like, what is one of the most prescient pieces of advice that you've gotten as a founder? And that's what we'll leave everybody with. And then please tell them where to find you, both of you, your company, so that they can support.
Sure, I can go first.
Okay.
So the first thing that comes to mind is someone told me that a long time ago that the best thing to do is just to make a decision. Whether it's right or it's wrong, you just have to make a decision and move forward, and then you can kind of, deal. Maybe you need to pivot. Maybe it wasn't the right decision, but you have to make a decision. You always have to keep kind of moving forward. And I think that's really stuck with me, especially when you're a founder and you're making 1,000 decisions a day, and some of them are, huge, big decisions, and some are silly little things, but it's basically all we do all day, right, is make decisions. And so, I don't know, I think that's really good advice. It's always stuck with me. Jenny?
Love it. Jenny?
Yeah, and I think for me, it's about listening. So, your consumers will tell you whether or not your product is working. Velocity will tell you whether or not your product is working, and your mentors and advisors, if you've chosen good ones, will actually tell you things that are helpful to your business. But sometimes as a founder, it's very easy to not want to hear them or see it or not get what they're really telling you. So I think, learning how to listen, even if it's like not something you necessarily want to hear, is advice I've been given. And the more I practice it, not to a fault, but the more I practice it, the more an impact it does have on our business.
So important. I found that the best businesses have founders and leaders and marketers that know how to listen.
Yeah, absolutely.
And where to find you?
So you can find us on our website. It's theowlsbrew.com. Or of course on social, we're at the Owls Brew, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, all the good stuff.
Love that you have a TikTok too. All right, ladies, well, super grateful. We're actually going to see these ladies inside of our community as well in just a few minutes, but very grateful to have all of your wisdom and for you taking the time, especially leading up to the holidays. And a very happy holidays and happy New Year to you.
Same to you. Thank you for having us. This was really fun.
Yeah, thrilled to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.